Hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my craft space. And yeah, another set of coffee-themed cards. After the last one I posted, I was thinking along with coffee-themed, plus I wanted to do more coffee ring stamping with my coffee mug. Well, it's not my coffee mug. This is too small for my morning coffee. So anyway. If you missed that previous video, I will have it linked at the end screen of this one. You can check it out. For this one, I pulled out, this is a little older stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. This is the Coffee Friend stamp set. This came out last year, I think. I'm not even sure. I spotted it in their store and I was like, I don't own this. So I ordered it with the little coordinating wafer die, and then I haven't had a chance to use it. So I pulled it out. Combined it with one of the new wafer die sets and some pattern papers, some lovely honeybee pattern paper. This is also came out last year, I think, or something. They're rainbow birthday paper, and it's just, it's so beautiful. And this is one of the ones that I ordered a second pack of, so I actually felt okay cutting into it. Anyway, those that have watched my videos for a long time remember I used to do paper piecing all the time back in the day. It was just something I loved doing. I still love doing it. I just don't do it very often. So I did some paper piecing and some ink blending and stamping with my coffee mug and all the fun things. And yeah, just keep watching and I will show you how I made these cards. So paper piecing, like I said, I've done many videos over the years doing it. There's a few key steps with paper piecing. One, the type of ink you use. I generally will use a Copic or alcohol-friendly ink. You don't generally get as crisp, as black of an impression as you would with like my VersaFine, Claire Nocturne, etc. But I do want to use alcohol markers because that is one of the keys to making paper piecing look good. So I'm stamping that little coffee cup onto some white cardstock with Simon Says Stamp's Intense Black ink. I also stamped just the top portion of the cup onto some scraps of white cardstock. And then the pattern paper of choice. And this is, Honeybee's Rainbow Birthday pattern paper pack. This particular one, I love it. It's beautiful. Love the watercolor look of it, everything. So, stamped the cup onto there too. And I'm doing everything in doubles because I've got all the supplies out. Why not make more than one? So, the other key thing with paper piecing is a good pair of detail cutting scissors. I still, to this day, my little Cutter Bee scissors are my go-to for all fussy cutting. I have had these scissors for I don't even know how many years. Many years. I have more than one pair just because, obviously, because if you don't, they will like walk away. Favorite scissors. They just, you just get to... People love certain scissors for certain things. I have many different pairs for many different things. These ones are my detail ones. So when cutting out the actual pattern paper, you cut right on the line. Right up next to line, right on the line, etc. It doesn't have to be perfect. There's ways to make it look better when we're done. But basically you just cut right up to the line. This is one of the easiest type images to paper piece. The only little finicky part is this one little area inside the handle. You could also cut like along the edge of the cup there, the left hand side of the cup. You could cut with scissors, cut along there, and then just continue along to cut out that little hole. It would be fine because when you adhere everything down with glue, you wouldn't be able to see those cut marks. But I just used a craft knife. Something I'm not very good at, like craft knives. I don't even like using them, but for things like this, I will. You can also just use your scissors and just kind of like stab through it and cut whatever works. Whatever you're comfortable with. But once it's all cut out, the other key step is the alcohol markers. Adding shading just brings it to life. It gives it that depth and dimension, because otherwise it's just a piece of pattern paper with a stamped image on it, which with some things, that's fine. It depends on what you're doing. you know, if you want to stamp on pattern paper, like stamp some florals and then die cut them or cut them out, whatever, just different things. However, if you take the time to add that little bit of shading, it really does make a difference. But especially in something like this, you want to give it that little bit of depth, the shadow. And since I didn't do a different piece of paper or a different section for the little between the cup and the saucer, the shading helps kind of differentiate, because otherwise you can just tell it's just a continuous piece of pattern paper, if that makes sense. So you got to experiment with your markers, whether it be Copic markers or other alcohol-based markers. I find I usually have to go a bit darker than I plan, because again, you're going on pattern paper. So I use like warm grays. That's usually what I go for. I will link to the specific ones I used, but here you can see like what a difference it makes adding that bit of shading. So I just went along and added that. And then this piece that I stamped, the scrap piece I stamped, you could color this with just brown markers. That would work too. But I just used my ground espresso, distress ink, and a little blending brush. This is not how I take my coffee. I would like to work my way towards not putting as much cream in my coffee. Chris still like teases me about that. Would you like some coffee with your cream? Anyway. I don't drink it black, man. If there is no cream, I am not having coffee. Ew. Anyway, still, it's a gorgeous color. I love ground espresso. So I blended that over the piece. And then same thing. I fussy cut this out. It's hard to see on camera, but like I could see the stamp lines. And I cut right up to the lines with my little cutter bee scissors. And then those 2 cups I stamped on the large piece of white cardstock originally, I die cut those with the coordinating wafer die, because that's going to be my base that I'm going to adhere everything to. And this is the other key thing, a black marker. I highly recommend one like this. This is just a Memento Tuxedo black marker. This is another one. I had mine for years. I only somewhat recently, I forget when, it was a while ago, purchased a new one, but that's all I use this marker for generally, is when I fussy cut, or you guys will see me sometimes if I stamp something in black and I stamp it on texture and I need to fill in, you know, a little dot here and there, that sort of a thing. That's what I use this marker for. I prefer a marker like this. I have seen people use like a black Copic marker. I do not recommend using like alcohol-based markers to do this edging, because the nature of alcohol markers, they seep in to the cardstock. So if you find that you do that and you've got this weird feathery edge all over the, you know, edges, it's because the marker seeped into it. So if you want to do fussy cut and do yourself a favor, really it comes in handy, like I said, for like stamping and other things. I like this marker. So I just use the side of the brush tip and I run it along the edges. This coats that exposed white cardstock on the pattern paper and this little piece that I did for the coffee. And it makes things look seamless. And it also makes it look like I, you know, cut everything perfectly, which I didn't. So even if you're not doing paper piecing and you're just fussy cutting stamped images, because people still do that. That's what we used to do, you know, back in the olden times, before we had coordinating dies. Back in the day, we didn't have any of this stuff. It was still fun, but man, it's so much even more fun now, in my opinion. But anyway, we used to have to fussy cut everything. Everything. Like, I used to have to draw things, man. Anyway, fussy cutting out images, you know, if you don't, because some people don't like die cutting them, you know, they don't like that white edge, etc. I get it. It's fine. So if you fussy cut images, it also makes a huge difference to use that black marker and go along the edges, because again, it coats that exposed white cardstock and it makes the cuts look seamless, you know, and smoother and better, and just, it's worth the extra few minutes. Highly recommend. So I did all of that. I did my shading, you know, I did my trimming, I did my shading, I did my edging with the black marker, and then I just adhered all the pieces together with craft tacky glue. And there I've got 2 super adorable cups with this adorable pattern, and now I want cups like this. I have a thing for coffee cups too. It's so bad. I have several in my office, like for just display purposes only, and then all the random ones, you know, in my kitchen. And I have to stop myself from buying like coffee cups, because otherwise we would be overrun. Anywho, back to the card. I also die cut the white cardstock using the new Windswept Leaves wafer die. This is a favorite. You guys will see this it will make an appearance in many videos. You can't go wrong with greenery. you know, and variety. You always need a variety of greenery too. They can't all look the same. So you need like 50. You need everything, all the things. Anyway, I die cut. And then I left them in the cardstock and did very simple ink blending using 2 different shades of green ink from Simon, the Positively Saturated inks. I did Tropic first, which was my lighter green, and then Aegean, which is darker. I was using a blending brush. I didn't make my blending perfect because that's the beauty of these inks is they smooth out as they dry, and they just... And also, these colors are fabulous. I don't reach for them often enough, and every time I do, I'm like, oh, these are nice colors. So I did my little bit of blending, and now I'm going to stamp with my coffee cup. And I learned my lesson from the last video. I did not spray the spray onto my work surface because it gets everywhere. Obviously, like, I'm a professional. I've been doing this for 2 decades, and I still do really just silly things. Anyway, I used my ground espresso distress oxide spray. You could also use ink. Like, I could have smushed the ink pad or the oxide ink. I've shown that actually in videos using the coffee mug. And then add a little bit of water. That works too. But just, shook up the spray, put it onto my mat, and then I used the bottom of my coffee mug. Swirl it in there, stamp with it. It's perfect. If you have a really steady hand, you could paint this, or you could, trace a circle die, etc. But this is just so easy. It's so easy. And I love it, and you get it. It's uneven. They're perfect little coffee rings. So I stamped them onto white cardstock panels. And then I also stamped them onto what will be the insides of my cards. My card bases are going to be top folding A2 note cards made from Neenah Desert Storm cardstock. So after I did all that, cleaned up my mess, wiped off that coffee cup, set it aside. And then I die cut scraps of Simon's Dull Pink cardstock using the Hugs wafer die from this CZ Design basic trio die set, because there's Hugs, Thanks, and Hello. It's just like, it's one of those another like just staple little die sets, because I reach for these all the time. I love them. So I die cut the scraps, and then, as is tradition, I stack them together for Dimension. Dimension is life. Laura Basson started it. She sings it, so it's much more enjoyable when she does it. I will not sing it, but I agree. I am part of the Laura Basson fan club. So I stacked them together. I was just using craft tacky glue. This is the little Gina K precision tip bottle that I filled with craft tacky glue. I use this for all my little detail bits and whatnot, and stacked those together. And then I used Simon's Sweets ink and blended it. If I was to redo this, I would have used taffy because it's darker. Right now, this looks dark. I got a nice ombre going on, but again, these inks dry back. They soften and they dry back. So in the end, you can't even really tell that I did this. So I should have gone with the taffy ink, which is darker, but it still looks great. I'm just mentioning this because, on camera right now, it looks just nice and ombre looking and fabulous, but it'll dry back to the point where you can't even tell. So just use a darker shade. It's all good. So I trimmed down those white panels so that they'll be smaller than my card base. I trimmed down to like 3 3/4 by 5. Yeah. And then I adhered a couple pieces of the greenery. And then to adhere the little coffee mug, I am using my waffle flower foam strips. These are the thinner ones, so it'll give it a little bit of dimension, but not a lot of bulk. And stuck these on the back of the coffee mug. And then using just my, other pair of scissors. These are the Simon Says Stamp scissors. I forget the actual specific name. I'll have a link to them. These scissors are my holy grail go-to for cutting foam tape. Nothing sticks to these. Seriously. I was talking about this in a video. I think it was one of my lives on Facebook or something. I forget. But I was like raving about these scissors. I was like, dude, seriously. When I first came out with these, I was like, these look like children's scissors. Do I really need them? Love them. Like, cutting apart foam tape is like, even I have some super sticky foam tape, that it is a nightmare to deal with. This stuff just slices through it like it's nothing. Love these scissors. Always must have. Anyway, back to the card. On the inside of the card, I stamped a sentiment from that little set with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. This is my go-to for sentiments and whatnot. And then I just kept that one little leaf sprig and decided to adhere that too. Just gives it that little extra something. Why not? So adhered that into place. And then once that's adhered, for the card fronts, I am going to back those with Simon's Big Mama foam tape. And before I got to that, white gel pen. This is a final little thing with paper piecing and with anything. You guys see me add little highlights and texture and dots and all the things. It just gives it that little extra something. So I added that with the white gel pen, just, little lines and little dots, basically. And once I did that, then I'm going to put Simon's Big Mama foam tape on the back of these, because it's just one of the rules, My absolute favorite foam tape. It's super, super thin, so it gives everything just a teeny bit of dimension without a ton of bulk. And yeah, this stuff, it's not as sticky as it used to be. Like, it's still sticky, but those that might remember from way back in the day, it used to be a nightmare trying to get the release paper off this foam tape. But now, I forget, like, they changed it years ago. It's been years now. This stuff is just, I go through a fair bit of it, but a roll lasts forever. So anyway, pop that on there, got that in place. And then as my last little bit of embellishment, I've been hoarding these for a bit. I don't quite have all of them, I don't think yet. These are the ombre glitter drops from Pink Fresh. They're very pretty. They're a little bit more tricky to work with in the sense of it depends on the color combo. It depends on the colors you're working with, because these have more than one color. But I don't care because they're gorgeous. It's glitter encased in like little rhinestones, like one of my favorite things. So I stuck a few of those here and there on these cards, adhered them into place with little dabs of craft tacky glue, and that finished them off. So, like I mentioned earlier in the video, I will have a link to the other coffee card video, and that one was like mixed media and mucking around. I had fun with that one. I'll have a link to that one at the end of this video. All the supplies I used in this one, those will be linked directly below the video in the description box. So you can just expand it. I will also have a link to my blog post, and in there I'll have the pictures of the cards, the picture links to all the supplies I used, etc. So you can check that out below if you are interested. I also, of course, link to all my social media, my Patreon, all that stuff directly below. Thank you guys so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.